Hi there, it's Brian Sebastian, Movie Reviews and More, Worldwide TV Network, WomenOnTV.tv, and IT247 out of Franklin, Tennessee. So again, another one of Sherry Nelson's friends coming in, and I know this woman. She doesn't know that I know her, but I know of her. And I think we've been in the same circles, except I was the lonely black guy in the little corner, and she was this big, huge figure over here doing everything. That's none other than Eileen Shapiro. Hello, Eileen. And then obviously Sherry Nelson, because Sherry's been bringing out all these people that we probably have been in the same circles, but might not have had a chance to meet each other because it would have been so big.
Well, hello.
and don't mind me, there's many things going on here. Eileen, when did you know that you wanted to be a rock journalist? How did this happen for you? Because it just doesn't happen that way. Usually sometimes you become a groupie, or someone's just like, I'm a deadhead. And you want to follow that band. Did you fall into one of those two categories?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Totally. I was obsessed with Adam Ant. And I decided that I somehow wanted to meet him, interview him, do him, whatever it took.
Oh.
So, yeah.
I'm sorry. No, I know as a younger girl, I loved Adam Ant, and I'm glad that you're bringing him back into the front. What was it that stood out to you for Adam Ant that was so unique compared to any of his contemporaries?
Okay, well, I had a bucket list. Okay, I wanted to interview either Adam, Billy Idol, or Rick Springfield.
Oh,
but,
good.
But Adam was different, and he was gorgeous. He was absolutely beautiful. And then he disappeared for like 17 years and then reappeared. And I was like, oh my God. And he reappeared like cuter than ever, more talented than ever. And I got to meet him, and he was everything that I pictured he would be and more. So that was kind of cool.
Eileen Shapiro, she's a rock star journalist. She writes for many, many magazines, and she's also a partner at one of the top PR firms in the nation, actually in the world. Eileen, she just finished writing a book called Waiting for Adam. And are you able to tell us a bit about that, Eileen?
Absolutely. And just so you know, when you read it, don't be surprised because you're in it as well. So it's pretty much. Yes.
Oh.
Yes, Sherry, you're definitely in it. So what it is, it's not really all that much about Adam. It's about the journey that I went on trying to interview Adam. It took me 6 years to get an interview with him because he doesn't really love the press. And when I first started writing, I wasn't really all that popular or all that big. I wrote for a gay magazine in New York for a couple of years. And then I started to write for HuffPost. And then I started to write for Louder Than More. And then I met all these fabulous people and interviewed all these great people. And I wanted to build my credentials up enough to be able to say, okay, now I'm ready for Adam Ant. And it took 6 years. It really did. And on the way, I interviewed like the best people in life. And that's what the book is about. What it is my journey. And it has all the interviews that I've done while waiting to interview Adam.
Well, and one thing that stands out with you, Eileen, and everybody has always said this when you talk about you, and they say you're not malicious, you don't try to, undercut people. That's why your books and your articles are always, a pleasure, to read. And I appreciate that you do that, because so many people I find, it's in vogue to kind of pick on someone or ostracize them. And you do have an enjoyable pen and method of delivering your thoughts.
Thank you. No, I never write anything bad about anybody. It just so happens that in the book, Jimmy Starr wrote my foreword, my introduction, and he actually wrote something bad about someone. I'm like, oh my God. But it wasn't me. He did more of a joke than anything, but the person, and I know the person will read it, is probably going to want to kill us. I mean, it's not terrible, but But no, I never, in my articles, I never write gossip and I never write anything bad because, you know, it's people's lives. You can't ruin people's lives. So.
Well,
So,
and
Eileen-
Brian, when I first met Eileen, I was in Los Angeles, and Eileen was gracious enough to take me to Mike Ferguson's movie, and so we went to a premiere, and you know, everybody wanted to see Eileen. They wanted to talk to her. So, you know, there's no better person to go to red carpet with than Eileen because everybody wants to get her attention and her ear.
Well, I'm not really sure about that. Once they saw you, it was really you they wanted.
No. But Eileen, Jessica Heim is here, and she's a very gifted singer, and she works on cruise ships, and I was really hoping to have her on here. And Brian, I thank you for bringing Jessica on for this so they could meet.
Yeah, she too. We've been going back and forth, so I figured, why not, Jess? Right?
Absolutely. Hi, nice to meet you officially, sort of. But
We kind of met on Facebook, but nice to meet you in
right, yeah, you also.
Where do you live? It looks like it's really pretty where you live.
I'm in Tennessee right now, about an hour from Nashville. So
Nice.
this is I'm taking a chance on the weather. It's definitely summer storm season. So
Uh-oh.
I had intended on going into town to make sure I was under a roof, but that didn't work out. So my transportation didn't work out today. So I'm winging it at the house, but I can't be inside because I literally cannot get connection inside of my house. So I have to come outside into the yard.
I would have done it outside, but I'm in New York and it's just too humid and hot.
Oh man, it was toasty. I saw yesterday that it was so hot yesterday. I used to live in New York, and I never went through with the AC unit or any sort of air conditioning unit. And I don't know if it's 2013 or 2014. I don't even know how. Like looking back, I don't know how I survived. It was horrendous. It was so hot at night. You can only take off so many clothes, man. And if there's no wind, you're just done for.
Eileen, with all of the people that you've interviewed, who is your favorite interview, and also who would be your most sought after interview now?
Aside from Adam. 'Cause he was still to this day my best interview.
Yeah.
Because one of the reasons I wanted to interview him was because I knew he was a good interview. But aside from him, Rick Springfield was a great interview. I interviewed him twice. Let me see. Brooke Shields was a great interview. She was like a 3-hour interview. She wouldn't get off the phone, but she was really nice. Let me see now. Diana Ross was probably the worst interview, only because she only answered with one word answers. She was nothing, but only one
rough.
word. It was.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. What makes for a really good interview? What makes for a poor interview? Because I was wondering about that, about the yes nos, because I think it was Mickey Burns. I had seen him being interviewed, and he was explaining there has to be a conversation.
Mickey Burns is a great interviewer. He really is. Mickey Burns is way better than I am. He's doing it. He is, but I mean, he's that's it. There has to be a conversation, and the thing is, it's better if you have a rapport, because if you don't have a rapport, I mean, there aren't many people that I didn't have a rapport with, but there were some, and it's just not real. I interviewed Colin Hay from the Land Down Under, the Men at Work, and I didn't know it at the time, but he had just had surgery the day before, and he was in like the worst mood, and I could not develop a rapport with him. He just wasn't friendly. I mean, it was still a good interview because, you know, he answered the questions and we did have a conversation, but I felt this like wall between us. And normally I can tell if it's going to be an interview 2 seconds after I answer the phone. I can always tell that. Cece Peniston's a great interview. She's friendly with everyone. If anyone wants to interview her, she's great. Scott Page is a great interview, only he doesn't stop talking, but he is a great interview. Howard Bloom is a good interview. Most of my clients, including you, are the best interviews in the world. They really are.
Thank you. Eileen, because you've been doing this for quite a few years, are you seeing any changes in entertainment, like the type of personalities coming to the forefront, or are there any particular people that you're seeing that are the ones to watch?
Well, to be honest with you, I like to interview the people that were as opposed to the people that are. But I mean, I've interviewed like Emma Stone and Lizzo and people like that. And really, you know what? When people are interviewed, it's about them. They want to talk about themselves. That's why they're being interviewed. So not really. I mean, I guess this changes in entertainment, especially now. But as far as, I mean, movies are movies. Music is music. You know, I'm not in love with the music that's out there now, but the people are the same. They still want the same thing. They still want the same recognition. They want to rise above the noise. So I'm going to say no. I'm going to say no to that one.
Eileen, when you think about, one of the things I always said on my radio show and TV show, I didn't take phoners. And the reason I personally didn't do phoners because I always had enough people in the studio, and I didn't want to take away from that because I noticed years ago when you had phones and people had their own personal phones, the first thing they would do is start looking down. Did you notice that? And then the second thing was when we used to do a lot of the junkets back in the early 90s, it was much more personable. And it was hard. Like, it was hard to get a Tom Cruise, but if you got Tom Cruise, you made it, because Pat Kingsley wasn't going to let anybody talk to her clients unless she was so-and-so.
I'm very lucky because I pretty much get who I want. I secret it. I just say, oh, I want to really interview this one, and I visualize it, and I always get them. But the thing is, I do most of my interviews over the phone and then meet the person later or beforehand. It's a weird thing. I prefer doing it over the phone because I'm a journalist. It's on paper, so I don't care what they look at. I mean, they could be taking a bath when I'm interviewing them. I don't care, as long as they speak to me. And I find that when you interview someone in person, they tend to talk longer, which means more that I have to transcribe, which means when you do an interview, if you, for like a publication, 15 to 20 minutes is really the top that you should interview somebody, because you have to write it in a lot of these publications. So, well, someone, Louder Than More, loves it long, but someone like a HuffPost, 1,100 words, they won't take anymore. Or someone like, or a print magazine like Get Out magazine, they want 2 pages. They don't want like 10 pages. I mean, they'll make an exception. I interviewed Boy George. I met him first, and then I interviewed him over the phone because I did his bio for his latest album. But I mean, he spoke for, I don't know, almost 2 hours, and everyone used the entire interview because he's so interesting, because he's so amazing. But normally when I'm interviewing someone, 15 minutes, that's like a good limit. That's a good limit because you can actually use everything they've said. Otherwise, you got to kind of edit some of the things they say. And, you know, some people, I'll give you an example. Howard Bloom, he was the greatest publicist on the planet. I mean, he represented Michael Jackson, Bette Midler, Billy Idol, Alice Cooper, Aerosmith, Queen, almost anyone you can mention. And he has stories. So when I interviewed him, I interviewed him for a full hour, and I used the entire interview. There was nothing I could cut out. So there's no way I could have done an interview in 15 minutes. So it's hard, but I do prefer interviewing over the phone than in person. Once you're in person, you're there. You're there. They have a captive audience. You can't say, okay, got to go now, because you're there. Or I have another call because you're there. So I absolutely prefer talking on the phone than for what I do.
See,
Eileen, you're at that. I'm sorry, Brian.
Oh, see, I have to clarify that. So most writers would do that. So now our TV and radio people, we would have our separate room. We had a radio room. So say if Howard Bloom came in, we would have 20 minutes or 25 minutes. So we would always ask the question, and then we would wait until they finished, and then we have to jump in. So we were in that difficult room where we had to turn off the air conditioning, Jessica. We wouldn't put water with ice cubes out because we had to have clean sound. And then we would use 60 or 90 seconds. So as you talked about, Eileen, I would use the whole interview where my colleagues, they would use just a snippet of stuff. And I'm like, well, why aren't you using the whole thing? You know, why are you using 60 seconds this week and 60 seconds next week? Air the whole thing. I was right, but they looked at me as I was wrong. And here we are. I'm one of the last survivors in the radio roundtable rooms that we started in 1993. They're all gone, and it's a shame. And you talked about how you used to have long 1,800 words and what like that. Those days are gone, unfortunately. That doesn't mean you're not a good writer. It's just people's attention span is like 8 seconds, literally now. It's not good.
Correct. Correct. But if you have someone that's interesting, they will listen. You want Howard Bloom, by the way. You absolutely want him.
Well,
because
yeah,
you can.
I remember when I first interviewed his client, Bette Midler, for Beats. It was an honor, and I was like just starting out back then, you know.
When you interview somebody really on top, it is an honor. It really is. And there were certain people that, I mean, I interviewed Nile Rodgers. To me, that was like the biggest honor because
one of the best bass players ever.
He's amazing, and he's like the nicest man. And I've never really interviewed anyone that was nasty, I have to say. So did you? I mean, I never experienced it.
The toughest person, believe it or not, was David Geffen. Did you ever talk to David Geffen?
Yeah.
He was the toughest. I asked him this, I'll never forget, out of a room, and this was like a TCA panel. He was coming from an island, and HBO was doing a documentary on him. I got the first question out of 200 people. I go, David, you've done stuff on Broadway. You discovered Tom Cruise, but you've also done stuff in movies, you know, Risky Business, All the Right Moves and stuff like this. And you know, being a partner for DreamWorks, what did you prefer best, being that you championed both worlds? His answer was, I don't know.
Oh, no.
And then 7 people, Eileen, 7 people right after me, all one answers. He didn't want to be there. He had nothing to say about his career. This is David Geffen. Jessica and Sherry, if you ever get a chance to Google David Geffen, this guy he had nothing to say. And then Sheila Nevins from HBO came up to apologize to me personally at the end. She goes, Ryan, I'm sorry. He's normally not like this. I'm like, Sheila, he's always like this. You know, you took him off from an island. He didn't want to be there. And it's a documentary on his whole career. He was the toughest.
No, sometimes you get really tough people. I'm lucky I can break through it. But the thing, you know who's a very difficult interview? Young Warwick. She's great. She'll do it, and she wants to do it, but she's real. I've interviewed her 4 times, and every time I had to pull words out of her mouth. And she's a friend, but you still have to pull words out of her mouth. I don't know if she's a little bit shy or what the deal is, but I mean, there are some people out there that, like, why do you want an interview? Talk to me, you know?
Well, I was going to ask if, when it comes to those interviews, you said that you've never had you've never encountered anyone that's nasty or mean, people that it's been hard to get words out of them. Has anybody just said something that blew you away and you had no idea how to react? Have you ever had one of those moments where you're just like, have you ever had a shocked moment or two?
Not about anything, but it just so happens that yesterday I interviewed Kenny Aronoff. He's the drummer for John Mellencamp, and he played with Lady Gaga, and he's a great interviewer, by the way, and he played with almost everybody in the world, but he was John Mellencamp's drummer for 17 years. And he played with the Beatles, and he's a kind of a friend, but I said, look, let me just interview you. And he said, oh yeah, go ahead. And he felt the need to tell me his penis size. So I was a little bit like, oh,
okay.
You know, how nice of you. So I mean,
thank you so much. Thanks for that.
Well, Eileen, you would remember this. There's some people that want to shock you, just to see if they can get a rise out of you. I remember one woman. She had I won't mention her name, but she had a cast on her hand. And I go, so what did you do to your hand? And she goes, I hurt myself masturbating. And I was like, she tried to get a rise out of me. I'm like, that's not going to work. You don't know where I come from. And so she was so shocked that it didn't work on me. And I was like, so I just went into the next question and then we got serious. But she tried to shock me and it didn't work. And she was disappointed.
Well, you know, and like I said, no one shocked me. And the reason Kenny felt the need to tell me his penis size was because we were actually talking about black men, because I like black men. And you can guess why. So he tried to tell me, well, I was born like a black man. Like my penis is really big. I said, well, that's really good for you. You know, my next question to him was, well, how big is it? You know, nothing.
Just
You
kind of
never
play
know.
off the information.
Well, sometimes you never, that's the fun part. Well, this is the fun part. Like, I'll never forget when a Robin Williams, and I'm sure you talked to him, when he would walk through the door and he would literally, so in the radio room, Jessica and Sherry, in the radio room, we couldn't laugh. We couldn't respond like a print writer will get, you interject. We had to be quiet because we would ask you a question, wait for your response so we can air it for syndicated radio. So his job was to come in, make all kinds of masses and make us laugh, and we would get it out of our system. And then he would still make us laugh, and we would go on like this and covering our mouth and everything. And then he'd get up and try to do all kinds of stuff. And we couldn't laugh because if we had sound in it, we couldn't edit it out and we couldn't sell it. Now for me, it didn't matter because I aired the whole thing because it's Robin Williams. We'll just let him do his thing. But I never forgot that. And so Eileen, that's how I adjusted to everything. And again, that's why Movie Reviews and More is still here. I always said, we're just going to outlast everybody. We can wait. We're patient.
There you go. There you go. The radio's a lot different than what I do, though. I admire all you radio people. I really, really do, because a lot of times it's live. I mean, I can edit almost anything I write, but you can't edit it if it's a live show on radio. You're done.
Well,
I guess if it's recorded.
No, well, the difference is that we didn't do it live. We taped it. So everything was always on record. So all the interviews that we ever did back in the day, we still have them. So imagine what we have. But it's what we did, Jessica and Sherry, we would be at the Four Seasons in Beverly Hills, or, I forgot the place in New York, because they would fly us out. So we always did the junkets, Eileen. So they walk into the radio room and no one wanted to come into the radio room because you had to be quiet. Meaning if you folded, you did this to the papers, or you took a glass, drink water, their heads would turn like this, like, shh, because they wanted clean sound. When I go, it's not that serious. And then print people they'd be intimidated coming into our room because they're like, we can't make a noise. We don't want to be there. We want to be able to engage like you would talk about, Eileen, on the phone. So we had our different rooms, which is really interesting.
You know what? I only did one junket in my whole life, and it was a good one. It was a really good one. I did, it was for The Favorite. So I did Emma Stone, Rachel Weisz, and Joe Alvin, and the director all in one day. But a junket was different because you only had 20 minutes, and they gave us our own separate rooms. So there was like only 2 other people in there. So you got whatever question you wanted in, but again, it was only 20 minutes. We were limited. So I loved it. I loved it. Why I haven't done any more, I don't know. But
see, and those are the interviews that I did. So that's what I did. So Jessica and Sherry, those are the different interviews. So, you had a radio room. We only had 23 of us. That was it. That covered the entire country. So in Los Angeles, we had 7 to 9. So I was the only minority in there. And then my friend Ron Brewington had 2 outlets. He had urban radio, and then he had American radio. So he had the 2 biggest outlets in the country. So he and I were only the people of color out of 23. And then if they had a black film, and you could probably talk to this, if they had a black film, then you'd have black radio press coming, and they would make all the noise in the world, and we would just like look at them like, what are these people doing here? Because it was different. It was different film, different vibe. So I always admired, Eileen, of you print people, because you guys were the epitome of everything everybody wants. You want to get that word out? You go to Eileen to get that word written. You want to get that 60-second, that quack thing out, you go to the Junketeers in the radio room, because you come in, we're promoting that film, that CD, but we might do 3 or 5 films in one weekend. That's where all the interviews came up. So, you know, I was telling Sherry one day I did Sean Connery, Russell Crowe, Sandy Bullock, Meg Ryan, all in one day, back to back to back to back to back on a Saturday. It was like 90 degrees out. And I'm like looking, I'd love to be outside, but I'm like, no one would ever believe that this is our job that we do every day and every weekend, whether it's in Los Angeles or New York.
And it's so much fun. I did a red carpet for like a boss. And I had Tiffany Haddish, I had Billy Porter, I had them all. But when you're on a red carpet, your time's a little, I normally do not do red carpets. I like to walk them, not to do it. And the thing was, they were so cool. They gave us as much, I know Billy Porter, I've interviewed him a bunch of times and he knew me. So he hung out with myself and my photographer until we like wanted to get rid of him already. And Tiffany Haddish, she was really nice to us too. But normally when you do something like a red carpet, you have 2 seconds. You have one question. So I don't normally do them, but junkets are different. I mean, radio is different. And what I do, I'm kind of lucky because I happen to write for 72 publications right now, so I can put them all over, which is kind of fun. And,
Eileen, you're at the helm of Get Out magazine. Can you tell us a bit about that magazine?
Well, it's a gay entertainment magazine. It's in print, and it comes out once a week. And I write about anywhere between 1 and 4 articles for it, and it's kind of cool. But it's mainly what it does is he puts it out all through New York City. It's free, and it goes into the gay bars and I mean, it goes all over the city, but it goes into the gay bars and stuff like that. And everyone wants to be in Get Out magazine, everyone, because everyone wants that gay audience. So it's kind of really cool. It's kind of cool. I'll show you something. This is Get Out magazine. I was on the cover for the first time. I for them for 10 years, and they finally put me on the cover. But this is the magazine, and it's, you know, it's little, but it's cool. Everyone loves it, especially it's Pride Month. So I've been writing for that magazine the longest, almost just about 10 years now. And it's still my favorite magazine that I write for because it's in print and it's online, and I get the best people from it. I got Lizzo from it. I got Emma Stone from it, Brooke Shields from it, Diana Ross. They all want to be in that gay magazine. So it's kind of cool. Everyone wants it except Anna.
Here's another cover of Eileen. There she is right there. And can you tell us about Celebrity Ghost Hunters? This is an adult comic that everyone needs to see. It's really fantastic.
It's an adult comic, and myself, Ron, Jimmy, and the real ghost hunter, because she really is a ghost hunter. I call her KO because I can't even pronounce her name. But she asked us if we wanted to be in a comic book because we all went ghost hunting together. And I think we got the thing went viral on YouTube because it was more funny than scary. It was a little scary. We broke into an abandoned mental institution.
Is that the one in Los Angeles?
No, it was in New York, Kings Park Psychiatric Ward.
Oh, that's haunted.
In New York. Yeah. It's really haunted, and so we went there, and we went with a couple of celebrities. We did it a couple of times, so we made a comic book out of it, and not everything in that comic book is true, Sherry. Just so you know.
But Brian, I'm not sure if you know, but I believe before this essentially brought you and your partner Jimmy Starr together for the PR business that you have. Can you tell us about how you two connected and why you began your PR firm?
Sure. Well, I met Jimmy and Ron when I was on their show because I had just written a book. And the PR person for Adam Ant, who I used to be friends with, she asked me if I wanted to be on the show. And I was like, whatever. So I met Ron and Jimmy, and they used to live in Pennsylvania, which is not too far from New York. And I met them, and the next week they were visiting me, and I have a house on Fire Island, and I live with my gay soulmate, so there's a gay community that's really cool, and I have a house there. So they met us to come there, and we became fast friends, and we went ghost hunting, and we did a lot of different events in the city. I just used to invite them to all the events. Randy Jones' birthday. Randy Jones is from the Village People, the cowboy. Things like that. And one day, because of this woman that got me on the show that we decided we didn't like anymore because she was charging a lot of people a lot of money and all kinds of weird things, we decided that, hey, we have more connections than anybody. He has his show. I'm a journalist. And we have like a lot of connections. And we decided that when you write something, you don't get paid. I've never gotten paid except once from Boy George. He's the only one that ever paid for anything I wrote. And Jimmy doesn't get paid for his show. So we decided if we wanted to keep doing what we love, we need to think of something. And we both decided at the same time, let's open a PR company. And we did. And we're really, not to be arrogant and conceited, but we're kind of good at it. And
You're the best in the best. My goodness, they're in London, New York, LA. They cover it all.
We do. He's in LA. He's in California, Palm Springs. I'm in New York. We cover the UK and Europe. We cover the West Coast, the East Coast, and we really love what we do. But we decided that we weren't going to charge people like a regular PR company. I mean, you can pay anywhere from $1,000 to $5,000 a month for PR. And we said, let's just charge a minimal fee so we can eat, because we both love doing it. We're going to continue doing what we're doing anyway. And we just started with, a couple of indie artists, and then all of a sudden it built, and we have like the best people in the world now. We have you. We have Scott Page. From Pink Floyd. We have, what's his name? We have Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction. We have like the biggest people. Fred Schneider from the B-52s. We're the biggest people now that we do PR for. And even the ones we don't do PR for, even the ones we're friends with, they say, oh, you got to ask Eileen and Jimmy. They're our PR. And we're really not, but they want to say it. So we're like, okay, go for it.
That's what I said. You have to go to Eileen because, even my father, he's really feels secure that you're my family when I cross the border, because you're you take care of me, and the fallacy of lip service in Hollywood is definitely not in your veins at Rockstar PR. And so that's why, Jessica, I was like, go to her.
We really love our clients. We love you, Sherry. And we love our clients. There's not one client that I have to, maybe there's one that I have to say, But I mean, we really love our clients. And we know most of them personally and as friends. So that's really, to me, that's really cool. That's like the best thing in the world that can happen. Because then when you're friends with someone and you love them, you really care about them. Yeah. So you want to do the best that you can for them. And you really want to do it like from your heart, so like I said, we love us.
You're like family. You treat us as equals. And like I said, your diverse, eclectic reach is amazing. Like if ever anybody was to put on a concert, or if you can in the future, Jimmy and Eileen, they're the people you have to talk to, because they know past, present, future, musicians that you really want to have on stage. And I can't say enough good things about you, because what you say is what you get. And you take a lot of paperwork and stress off someone's desk by just connecting with you.
Thank you, Sherry. Well, you know what, like I said, people are people. And you really we want to do our best for them. We want to get them as elevated in life as we can, as they want to go. And this, it's kind of like we want to be successful. I mean, everyone wants to be successful, but when we're successful, we're like so happy. Jimmy and I talk about 10 times a day. And when something really good happens, we're like, I mean, we was so happy, like genuinely.
Yeah,
Not
no, you're all selfless, and yeah, that's yeah. And as I was saying, Jessica is so talented that we were having a private conversation, and I said I just would reach out to Eileen because she knows everyone, and you do direct people on a path that, and you have instincts. So yeah, no, I won the lottery with connecting with you.
I think I won the lottery with connecting with you. But we love to get our people together too. We love to network. We love when our clients meet each other. I think that's the coolest thing. I don't know that PRs really do that often, but I feel like
No, they don't.
no, I want my clients to connect, because hopefully none of them hate us. I mean,
No,
I say,
not at all. And Brian, when I very first met Eileen, I had just landed in Los Angeles, and I got to the hotel, and Eileen, she just said, come on up to my room. So I went up to her room, and we were getting ready to go to Mike Ferguson's movie. And later that evening, some more people from New York were flying in and staying at the hotel. Billy Hess, Mark Dallas, and it was the neatest thing. It was almost like a family reunion. Like right away, you just feel like you belong. They're so kind and inviting, and yeah, it was more than an Oscar event. It was almost, it was just reconnecting with family and friends. It
it
was
is
wonderful.
like family. It's like family, and I love when the family gets together, and you have that warm, fuzzy family feeling. I mean, that's great. That really is, and it's genuine from us, and it's genuine from you guys, which makes it
Yeah.
even better. Like we
Well,
really
it's
like.
always happy, positive, but at the same time, there's elements of we're moving forward and progressing. So, it's not just kicking up your heels. You're always, I can tell, you and Jimmy are always looking ahead, looking forward, for the next thing. And it's really exciting to be in that environment of, do something, people.
Yeah, that's kind of fun for us too, though. We get a new show or a new radio show, we're like so excited. And, to write an article, to write questions, even the questions that I write that you answer, that's exciting to me because I never know what your answers are going to be. And I never know what introduction I'm going to write until I see your answers, which is kind of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Eileen, what do you have coming up? Do you have anything coming up that's exciting or we should all watch for?
I do. One of my clients just formed a foundation, Soho Johnny, and I know that you know him, and he's
pretty wonderful.
Yeah, he's great. We always say he's the boy Sherry because he's so nice. He's like the male version of you because he's just such a nice person. So he formed this foundation, and it's called Let Me Help, and we're doing a benefit in November, and we're gonna have like really cool people. The benefits for COVID and for prostate cancer, and we're going to do it in the City Winery in New York City. We don't know who we're having yet, but we reached out to our team because we have a cool, very strong team that knows a lot of really cool people. So we reached out to Boy George, we reached out to Nile, we reached out to Paul McCartney and Rod Stewart and The Who. And it's on November 24th, and we're really, really excited about it. And you need to come. I hope the borders are open then.
Yeah, me too.
Hey, with that, we got
that's such
about
a wonderful
10,
cause, and
we got about 10
I think
seconds.
the COVID crisis kind of hit personal for Johnny, but there's no better. He's very gifted and talented as well. Yeah, he's a very, very powerful businessman. So it'll be a wonderful event to support